we're live. Hi, everybody. I want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us on Belly Baby Mom World Prematurity Day. This is a week-long series of talks and interviews, and the aim of these events is to raise awareness of preterm birth and the concerns of preterm babies and their families worldwide. I'm Gabi. I'm a birth doula and a mentor, and I am a mother of two boys, Benjamin and Mateo, ages 8 and 4. And I'm Gabi, and I work also with, I'm part of the collective of Belly Baby Mom. And these series of talks and interviews are supported by Pigeon Arabia, and a brand that it's developed by experts, loved by moms, with products designed to care for and protect our little ones all the way from maternity to childcare. And today here with me is the wonderful Lala Langtree-White from Small and Mighty Babies, and a wonderful human being. I have the privilege to know her, to have been to her house and see the kids. How are you, Lala?
I'm okay. I have to give you a heads up. I'm in a makeshift studio today. I'm actually sitting downstairs in Al Zahra Hospital whilst Mum is resting upstairs. So I'm just doing backup work for one of my colleagues at More Than Birth. I've actually was blessed enough to see one baby into the world already today. So this will be the second if I'm there. So
wow.
It's a prom day today.
It's a busy day, eh? So I'm so happy that you're here with us, and you make the best thing out of this. You're in the Al Zahra Hospital downstairs. That sounds wonderful. This is the doula life. People don't know what it's like. Sleeping in hospitals, sleeping in cars, making the best out of it. Exactly. Well, I'm so happy that you're here with us. And one of the reasons why Shireen and us in the collective wanted you to be with us today is because of your story, because you not only had a preterm baby, but you had twins.
We did. Yeah.
Yes. And so I wanted to hear a little bit more about that so that people can know a little bit about the background. Like, can you take us back to that moment when you found out you were pregnant and that found out that you were pregnant with twins?
Yeah, it was, we had not yet been in Dubai for 6 months. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. I was still breastfeeding my 1-year-old, and it was a bit of a surprise pregnancy. And I thought, it might be moving countries and all those sorts of things. And I thought, nothing of it. And my doctor went, look, why don't you just pop down to Allied Diagnostics and just go get a scan, see what's going on. It could be something else. And so if anyone has been to Allied Diagnostics, they will know that this is no plush Dubai OB's office. And I had a very straight-faced sonographer who scanned me.
My internet is failing me. Hold on. I don't know what happened to the internet or to the signal. I can, you're frozen, Lala. We were going so well, and now you seem to be frozen. I don't know if you can leave and rejoin us, if that's okay, because you are absolutely frozen. You can still hear me and you can still see me, but I cannot hear you. I can see you. I think, she left. Anyway, while we wait for her to rejoin us, she was telling us that. And I know a little bit about her story because I read some of the things. And let me see. Oh, she's here. She's back with us. You're back.
Hi.
Okay, so the last thing we heard, I think, was that you went to the diagnostics. That's the last thing we heard.
And they asked me a bunch of questions, and the last one being, and do you have any twins in the family? And I said no. And they didn't ask me another question. And I said, was that just a routine question? And she flipped the screen around and went, no, there are two. At which point, I think if I weren't lying down, I would have fallen down. And my husband started a very nervous kind of shrieking laughter in the corner of the room. And so began our journey. And it was a really interesting one because I remember early on going to one of our well-renowned obstetricians out here and saying, you know, I was really surprised by this pregnancy. It wasn't a planned pregnancy. I was kind of a little resentful that I was just sort of getting me back and it was just starting to. And then when I found out it was twins, it felt, I don't know, I just felt so magical. And I was so worried about losing them and about the increased risk of miscarriage. And what was really strange is this obstetrician said to me, in this pregnancy that you have, miscarriage isn't the worst thing that could happen. Which for someone who's been through miscarriage, that was a strong statement to say. And I don't know that I concur with that in any way, shape or form, but it kind of set a little bit of a tone for what was to come during the pregnancy. It really was a bit of a roller coaster. I found out that I was having monochorionic twins, which means I was having twins that were conceived from one egg and one sperm that split. And in a nutshell, if that splitting happens effectively, they end up with 2 placentas, 2 amniotic sacs. If it's less efficient, one placenta and 2 amniotic sacs. And as you go on, you're looking at 1 placenta, 1 amniotic sac, or conjoined twins. But for me, it was 1 placenta and 2 amniotic sacs. And the risk with this is that the babies may not share the blood flow across the placenta evenly. And this happens in about 10 to 15% of monochorionic twins. And it is something called twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. One of the babies gets too much blood and one gets too little. The one who has too much blood ends up with effectively going into heart failure. And the one with too little has very, very reduced fluid around them. The one who's got too much has huge amounts of fluid around them. And it's a very nasty disease. It's fatal in 90% of cases without surgery. The surgery is a laser surgery to try and separate the vessels in the placenta. And that itself carries a 30% chance of both babies surviving, 30% chance one baby will survive, and 30% chance that neither baby will survive. So I was diagnosed at 13 weeks. I knew I needed to get to 17 weeks to be viable for the surgery, at which point the lining of the amnion and the membranes are fused to the lining of the uterus. It's more stable to perform it. And I had surgery on the day of 17 weeks in London. At the time, it was not available here. Now it is down at the Corniche with the amazing Leanne Bricker, which just shows how far things have come in the 5 years since I've had my babies.
Yeah, that's. So you had this surgery, and then what happened the day of the delivery, and how was that?
We were told that there was a really good chance that the twins were always going to be born premature, and in fact, I remember being told at 22 weeks it looked like things were happening, and then again we had a few hiccups along the way, a few more complications with fluid. And amazingly, we managed to defy all odds and bumble.
Oh, don't fail me, little computers. You're frozen again. I can barely hear you. So I don't hear you and you're frozen. So I don't know I think we're going to go back to logging out, logging in. Because as you already know, Lala's in the hospital, in the Alzheimer hospital, waiting for a baby to be born. She's on a backup for her colleague, and she's back. Yes, and she's back here with us again.
It's a roller coaster.
This is fun. Okay, so the babies were born. I'm sorry. So you were thinking that at 20-something weeks, things were starting to move, and
we did a few stays. You know, we had a few kind of false alarms, and we were just so excited. I remember being really excited to get to 32 weeks. I think the whole way through the pregnancy, I felt a little bit of a ticking time bomb. I knew they were going to come early. It was just how long I could keep them in, and to get to 33 weeks, I thought was amazing. And both had the steroid, I'd had the steroid shots. So I just kind of assumed they would come out raring to go. So I remember being quite shocked when one of my twins wasn't breathing when they were born. And that silence of a baby being born and not hearing that cry. One of my twins did, and one of my twins didn't. I didn't get to hold them. Obviously, I could see them very briefly up in their little warmers.
You're frozen again. Let's wait till this passes, this little thing. It's like having a little contractions along the way for some reason. I can't. You're frozen again. Little Alsara, please bring us some really good magical Wi-Fi. Bear with us. This is live with Doula. So this is a very interesting event. We'll see what happens with Lala in the meantime. So anyway, let me see. I'm gonna add her to my stream. Is she there? Yes, she's here. Okay. So 33 weeks. What type of birth did you have? Did you have a cesarean?
I had an emergency cesarean. So my waters had started to go, and I had an emergency cesarean with them. And again, the guidelines on twin birth were updated last year, and they're much more supportive again for women having a vaginal birth. If the presenting twin is head down and if there's no complications or significant size discordance. Obviously, mine did have some complications, so it was a little bit of an influencing factor there as well. And I had reduced fetal movements. So that is why they were born at that point. And it was so different to my other births because obviously my husband went straight out with the babies to NICU. My incredible fetal medicine consultant at the time stayed with me, and I remember her showing me the placenta, and it was incredible seeing the laser and the surgery that had taken place during the pregnancy. And her staying with me was really what kind of prompted my journey to go on and support others actually and end up training as a doula and birth preparation teacher for exactly this reason, and why I'm so passionate about supporting women who have got special circumstances in their pregnancy and birth. And how I ended up running, support for Small and Mighty Babies, and why I'm so actively involved with Small and Mighty and with Twins Plus Arabia. It's huge. It's everything to me.
It's great that you turn this experience into something that could help others, because back then probably there was nothing, and now I feel that there's more and more every day to support parents of premature babies.
Yeah, it was just starting. So Twins Plus was established, and I used to go to weekly coffee mornings, and those got me through. There was something about having a twin pregnancy at the time. I didn't know many people who were having a second or third baby, let alone third or fourth baby at that time, and let alone people who were having such a complex pregnancy with what was likely to be a complex start to parenting as well. And those coffee mornings really saved me and was something I was so keen to be able to help take part in and provide for others after I'd had my own journey. And Small and Mighty was small at the time, and it's grown so much, and it was such a privilege to come on board and help grow that with Joanne and get to represent us in the region and offer so much family support now. We are just continuing to think of ways that we can better support families. But it is difficult. I think out here, everyone would say support is there if you know where to look. And that's the hard thing, knowing where to look. And that's why I'm grateful people like you guys at Barely Baby Mum are helping raise that awareness this week about where is support? What does support look like? So yes, we can all talk about awareness, and that's great, but actually where can families go for support? Because something that I felt that was so different in this experience for me of birth and parenting is I only wanted to speak to other families who'd gone through this. I loved all the well wishes from family and friends, but I just wanted to speak to other people who hadn't walked out the front door with their babies, or whose babies, instead of talking about, like what was your day like, and how long did they nap for? You were talking about oxygen saturation and how many mLs of colostrum they were taking. It was this whole new language, this whole new experience.
Yeah, you're right. Now you're thinking about that. Those are things that you would ask for a full-term baby, like, oh, like how long did he nap and how this and that, and you were, for lack of a better word, worrying about other things. And so
it just wasn't a language. I didn't speak NICU until I went through NICU. And I remember saying to my husband that first week, particularly when I was recovering from the cesarean, and I was trying to pump for the boys, and my children were in Dubai. I was in Abu Dhabi with the boys, with the twins. And so I didn't have easy access to family support at the time. And I just remember saying to him, I don't care what mountain I climb or marathon I run after this, nothing will ever be as challenging as this week of my life has been, ever.
So the first week after the babies were born, how did you go through, aside from talking to, you said that there was your doctor, or who else got you through these crucial hours that you were postpartum? And I mean, imagine being postpartum, and then imagine being postpartum with twins and preterm babies. That there's only one, there's two, and they're in the NICU, and you had a cesarean. So tell me more about that.
I walked the halls and cried, I think, for about 10 straight days. I did nothing but sob and shuffle and go, literally, I would be on a cycle where my boys were in two separate rooms, two separate units in the hospital. And one needed to be fed every 2 hours, pumped for and given the colostrum, and one every 3 hours. So basically I was doing it every single hour, and then every fourth hour I'd get an hour off to go down, take a shower, eat something, rest before going back again. So it was mentally and physically exhausting in a way that it was extraordinary. And even though I knew that I was having premature babies, I'd visited the NICU, nothing prepared me for the intensity of what that week looked like in reality, what that level of exhaustion, of physical exertion, of emotional, it was so all-encompassing, and I found it incredibly challenging. The things that were really kind to me, I think, was I have my twin's godmother. She would drive down from Dubai, and she'd bring me, and she'd stock up my little minibar fridge that I had borrowed. I was in the government hospital at the time. There was no minibar. I brought my own little mini fridge with me, a little kettle, and she would come and stock it up full of yogurts and snacks and easy to eat things, so that even if my 1 hour break was not during a hospital mealtime, there was something for me to eat and then get back to caring for the babies. And it was like nothing else I think I would ever go through. And it's something that I'm now so enormously passionate about supporting others through, because and in NICU, you are so aware, you look to your left and your right, and there'll always be someone who looks like they have it, easier, their baby looks healthier, and there'll be someone who looks like they have it so much more challenging than you do. And I always say to our families the whole time, it's not about the comparisons, it's about the connections. And those are the things, the women that I have met through it, knowing Joanne, knowing Suman from Twins Plus, Cassie from IVF Support, working with these women now in the support communities that we run out here is such, I can't tell you the joy it brings me, because they're all things that we wish we had had when we were going through those.
Okay, you froze for a little while. I think that you're good now. Okay. I know that you said that it brings you a lot of joy to be working with all these women, and I can only imagine. Everything. A lot of women that we know as doulas became doulas because of our personal stories. And I know that you're a doula, and so many other things, breastfeeding counselor, you're a childbirth educator, hypnobirthing, and as a doula. Well, before that, let me do. I want to park that question for a little while. The babies. How long were the babies in the NICU, and then what happened when you went to Dubai, got home? How did you cope then? Because different ways of coping, I guess.
Absolutely. So I will say now that the way I coped was not how I would recommend other people do. I want to say that for me, and I say this all the time because I think one of the dangers, one of the things I find about the role that I do is I often support families at a very vulnerable time. I support them in the situation that I was in. And I think it's very easy for them to think I couldn't have done it without you or put you on some kind of pedestal, which I do not deserve to be on. If I am good at what I do, it's only because I have hit rock bottom like a lead balloon and literally bounced along it for a long time before clawing my way up to the surface again. And I think that we spent the first 10 days down in the Corniche, and then we transferred back by ambulance up to Wellcare Hospital, where we were for about another couple of weeks. At which point I pleaded with my neonatologist to let me take the boys home early. My husband had run out of his leave, and my mother-in-law needed to return to the UK. And it was a really challenging decision because I had 2 babies at home, I had 2 babies in the hospital, and I didn't know what to do. So I basically said, okay, they can hold their own oxygen saturation now. This is about feeding and growing. They could hold their temperature. So I, with his permission, I took them home and I recreated special care at home. I employed a maternity nurse for a month, and we basically recreated SCBU, which is like NICU, it's special care baby unit. And I think in hindsight, I probably wouldn't say to people to take your babies home early. There is a reason why. And in NICU, they can look quite big. And actually, when you get them home, a little 1.7 kilo baby is pretty tiny. And I was like, oh, maybe they are still guinea pig sized. But it was pretty much feed them, wrap them, put them down. There was this big fear about don't let them expend any energy. I think in hindsight, if I'd done more research and if I'd been more clued up, and if the hospitals, I think, had encouraged greater education around kangaroo care and skin to skin, I would have done more of that as well. But it was physically exhausting. With 2 of them, it was finding the time to feed, then to pump, then to try and rest before doing it all over again. And it was yeah, I have no words for the intensity of it, I think.
I can imagine. And especially you had two other kids. Yeah. By that time, they were what, 4 and 2?
Yep, they were babies.
Yeah. They were still babies. So what else? Is anybody so you recreated the NICU thing?
Yeah.
There at your home, but was there anybody else that? Because my question is actually about, most of us are not gonna haven't experienced what it is to have a preterm birth, and maybe in our lifetime we won't. But we will know someone. I know people far away. Like I know, and I thought that it was really interesting what you said about we sometimes you wanted to talk to people that had gone through what you were going through, but usually sometimes that's really a couple of people. But what can what can us that want to help, but we don't know? It's like, I don't know how to help you. Can I support you? How could we support? And what would you tell as a doula? You know all of these things. How could we support other parents that are going through things like that? Because we can be empathetic, we can listen, but what else can we do?
I think in that initial time, I think one of the things that I didn't have my time was incredibly precious. So unless it was value added, then I just didn't want to know. I was like, I don't have to, I love you and I appreciate your thoughts, but I don't have time for this. I just don't. I need to eat, sleep, feed. That's all I need to do, like on repeat with all my kids.
So basically, do not visit me because I don't want to see you.
The things I would say definitely are meal train. Find out if you can do a meal train, organize so that you've got friends that, everyone's assigned a different night of the week to drop off a cooked meal. Or send Deliveroo or whatever it might be. Somebody organize that. Just take care of that out of the parents' way. Think about like, can I come and walk any dogs or pets that you've got? Is there anything that needs caring for? Can I organize school runs or nursery runs for the older children? Is that something that is helpful? Instead of messaging and being like, hey, how are you doing? How are the babies? maybe make one friend, or this is where I think the birth partner is really helpful, make them the spokesperson. So I was like, Rupert, you're on media. Everyone has to go via you for any update on me or the babies. And I'm like, unless they are kind of in the top tier of people who really need that information, they'll get it as and when. But, so he was kind of like the spokesperson for, rather than needing to have 18 different family conversations every day, he would be like, here's the update on what's happening today. And that was really helpful. So taking practical things off the parents' plate, that can be really good. Making sure that they know where to access support. There are so many people who contact Joanna and I and say, I wish I'd known about you when we were going through the journey. And I think that is the thing, is that we're so keen to make sure that people know Small Unbiblically Babies exists, and how to get that support. And, places like Twins Plus Arabia, if you're having twins or triplets or more, knowing where to get support, knowing where to speak to other peers who are walking a similar journey to you. What else would be really helpful? And I say, today is World Prematurity Day, and you can see every World Prem Day, I go and donate blood because, rather than, yes, I want to give cupcakes to all the units that my boys were in, and bearing in mind they were in four different units by the time because once they got home, we then had to be readmitted. They both needed surgery at City Hospital, so we ended up back in for surgeries for both boys. So we've done a little bit of a tour of the NICU units of the UAE. Who knew it would stand me in such good stead for what I was going to do later on in life as they grew. But things like that, the practical things, can really, really help. And in today, when we've got COVID going on, okay, if you're able to, perhaps leaving a cooler box outside your house with some ice in it, and then people can literally leave the meals in there if you're worried about infection control. The other thing that can be really helpful is if you've got a mum who's had a cesarean birth like myself and a husband who has to return to work, can you give her lifts to NICU? She's going to want to spend all her time in NICU, and if she's not able to drive for 6 weeks, being a car, being her taxi, basically, that can be massive as well. So if you're in that kind of bubble together and you're able to be responsible as well, mindful of the infection risks at the moment, then that is something that would be enormously helpful, I think, as well for mums.
Wow, this is also this is exactly, it's like, oh my God, like now I think that if I am ever faced with something like this from a friend, I think I'm more capable of like responding, because like you said, like a lot of people can message you, oh, and also sometimes even during postpartum, and I'm saying even with term babies, these are things that can also be very useful for term babies, because they're like, oh, let me know if you need anything. But we are so caught up in like baby world, mommy brain, and some of us are really how can I say, like we have a difficulty asking for help.
Definitely.
Most of us new moms, we think we can do everything. So I think this is all very helpful. Like, it's like, do you want this and that? Like giving them, like, I can do all these things for you, just pick. I'm more than happy to help you and support you. This is such wonderful things. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think we're about to finish our time together. We're closing on 30 minutes, but let me ask you anything else you want to share with us about, I don't know, your journey, your work.
Well, honestly, I could talk for days about it, because it is something that just absolutely makes my heart sing to be able to do, and to get to be beside families. It's such a privilege. You've already spoken to one of my amazing clients and one of our Small and Mighty mummies this week, Anisha. I was blessed to be beside her when her daughter was born at 430 grams, and came out with a squawk. What a mighty little lady she's gonna. Absolutely incredible. And it was a VBAC, Gabi. You'll love that as well. So,
yes,
star.
I know.
Yeah, and so I think, I count myself very lucky to get to meet the women that I do. They are some seriously mighty mamas, but the kindness, the little things that people did that made such a difference. I remember finding out the diagnosis of the boys and how poor their prognosis was. And I started crying in a coffee shop with my 1-year-old and 3-year-old. And I was trying to explain it to them about how the babies weren't sharing, but it wasn't their fault. And a lady just slipped me a note on her way out and just said, I went through something really challenging last year. I lost a baby, and I can see that you're upset. If you need anyone to call, I'm here. And I'd never met her before. And that just stays with me very much. It makes me really emotional even to talk about it now. It always does. And the fact that Leanne didn't leave my side in that theatre when Rupert had gone with the babies. This is why I'm such a big advocate for doulas, for people who are having premature birth, whether that means by cesarean or any other way. Have a doula, have that support. And then just the people like my twins' godmother, a great friend of mine, Isabel, who was my own nanny when I was little, came and helped me for a few weeks with the babies. And she stayed up in the nights with me and did the nights. And so did my husband. With the 2 twin babies, this was not a case of you sleep in the spare room and I'll see you in the morning. This was all hands on deck. And it was. And we are a big co-sleeping family. So we had all 4 in the room with us. And it was bonkers. But we live to tell the tale, and hopefully to support and connect with other families going forward now.
I'm so glad that you were able to talk to us today. I have so much mad respect for you and for everything that you do and the work that you do with the families. And I'm so glad that you share so much of how we can help parents, families, our community, if they're going through something like this, which like you said, it's something that it's not easy. So I am so thankful that you got time out of your schedule, out of the birth, to talk to us. And I hope I can get to see you soon. I haven't seen you more than a year almost.
I know. Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, thank you so much, Lala. I'll see you soon. And thank you everybody that joined us. And I hope that this has been very, very helpful to all of us that to know how to help other parents that are going through something similar. So anyway, I say goodbye. Bye, Lala.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Then let me know.
Yes. Cool. See you.